Somebody said it's fishy. Keeping with keep it short, John, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into the provisions of the bill. I think many of you know the area of the bill that you'd like to ask about. The next thing I'm going to tell you is this is my personal copy of the bill. If anybody's sat on a U.S. air flight from Phoenix to Washington or Washington to Phoenix for about the last 3 weeks with me or near me, you'll see me reading this version. Yes, I have read it. My personal version, let me find kind of a good page that's illustrative.
Take a page.
We'll do this page. My personal version is annotated with highlighting, underlining, and margin notes. Just because I've read it doesn't mean I can understand all of it. I'll answer as many of your questions as I can. Some of it is fairly straightforward English. For example, the provision that says, if you buy coverage in the individual market, you may continue to buy that after the bill goes into effect. There are only two minor problems. One, the insurance company that sells you that individual coverage cannot sell it to anyone else other than one of your dependents once the bill goes into effect. Now, if you understand insurance, if the last policy you can sell is, say, a policy in 2010, and you can never sell another policy on that plan's going away. There's also a provision that says you cannot change the plan in any way, and you cannot change the premium in any way. So you can ask, how long will that plan continue to be offered? So when you hear someone say, just for example, someone might say, if you like the plan you have, you can keep it. They might be telling the truth, if they're only talking about keeping it for a day or two. Let me talk a little bit about alternatives. There is a summary, one of the handouts out back. Well, let me first make the point. Some people say, look, what is the bill? You need to understand that there is, in the House, there are at least 3 and perhaps as many as 6 versions of H.R. 3200. The reason for that is that it was assigned to 3 committees. It was assigned to my committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee. It was assigned to the Education and Labor Committee, and it was assigned to the House Ways and Means Committee. Thank you. A senior moment for right there. And it went to each of those committees in one form. Each of those committees adopted amendments to it, and those amendments have not all been blended into one bill. So theoretically right now on the House side, the majority party has roughly 6 different bills, all of which are somewhat similar but not identical. People say, what about Republican alternatives? Why isn't there a single Republican alternative? Well, the reason for that is that you have lots of different Republicans with lots of different ideas. In the House, there are probably 3 to 5 leading Republican alternatives. One is offered by Paul Ryan of Wisconsin. One is offered by the Tom Price and the Republican Study Committee. One is offered by me, called the Improving Healthcare for All Americans Act. Yeah, I kind of like that one. All of them contain, and there's a summary of that bill in the materials at the back of the room. All of those bills, all the Republican bills, are, like all of the majority bills, similar in their major provisions. And what I mean by that is, conceptually, the Republican bills and the Democrat bills, the Democrat bills parallel each other, the Republican bills parallel each other. Bottom line is, the Democrat bill, as you can read, has the mandates and the commands. I kind of like to call it old think. It is Washington control. It is, I think, a healthcare solution for the 70s. That's my personal opinion. The Republican proposal, which is offered by most Republicans, drives around one issue principally, and that is patient choice. I love this lady's sign. I'm going to ask her to stand up and hold it, and turn around and face them. It's called "We Want to Control Our Lives." Let me make this point. Republicans absolutely believe we need to reform healthcare. At least I do, and I don't know of a single Republican in Congress who does not believe we don't need to reform healthcare in America. What we believe, however, is you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You ought to be doing and saving the good and fixing the problems. Let's talk about the good. This is one of my favorite charts. I had it made. I think the number one concern for most Americans when they think about their health care in a kind of a personal sense is the big C. In the Shadegg family, we have a little slogan. Any day that no one in our family is diagnosed with cancer and nobody that we know or love or care about personally or that we come into contact with is diagnosed with cancer, we call that a good day. This chart points out that under the now highly criticized American health care plan, cancer survival rates in the United States for breast cancer, for prostate cancer, and for all cancers combined are dramatically better in the United States than in Canada, Europe in general, or England. I'll just highlight for women, they are significantly better. 83.9% survive for 5 years with breast cancer. In Canada, it's lower than that, that's at 83.9. In Canada, it's 82.5. In Europe, it's 73.1. In England, it's 69.8. To move on just quickly, and you can get this chart if you want from my office. For prostate, it's better. In the United States, 91.9% of men who come down with prostate cancer survive 5 years. In England, you do not want to be in England. 50.9%. I think that's a good illustration of what we don't want to throw out, something that works like that. I would suggest to you that what is wrong with healthcare in America, and this is my own personal bias and bugaboo, and it's in all the Republican bills, is basically what this lady brought out in her little board right there. We don't have choice. No one in this room, pretty much, or at least only a fraction of the people in this room have control of their own health care. Because most of us get our health care from our employer. And because we get it from our employer, we can't make the choice. Let me give you a quick illustration. Let's say you got 2 letters in the mail today when you get back to your house and the Saturday mail's there. One is from your auto insurance company and one is from your health insurance company. The letter from your auto insurance company says, we're raising your rates 50%. The one from your health insurance company says, we're raising your rates 50%. What can you do about the auto insurance letter you got? Fire them. Fire them. Fire them and go buy another one. That's why every night on television you see ads for Geico and State Farm and Allstate and you name it. What can you do about the letter that came from your health care? You can do nothing. Because 70% of you get your health care from your employer. You can go into your employer and complain and say, you know what, I don't like the idea you're raising my rates by 50%. I'm not happy with that. And your employer can say, yeah, me either. See ya, gotta go. We can change that in America. The Improving Healthcare for All Americans Act puts you in the driver's seat. And it does that by letting you buy your own health insurance on the same tax-advantaged basis that big companies buy health insurance today. Let me briefly explain that point one step further, and then I want to talk about 2 things on which I think Republicans and Democrats largely agree, and then we'll throw it open to questions. What the Improving Healthcare for All Americans Act says is that if you have employer-provided care and you like it, you're getting it essentially tax-free. Your employer writes off the cost of buying it for you, and it's not income to you. But it's your employer's decision. The Improving Healthcare Act for All Americans, or Improving Healthcare for All Americans Act, says instead of that decision being your employer's decision, it becomes your decision. You can say, I like my employer's plan, I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to keep the tax exclusion I get with it, and everything's fine. For 86% of Americans who have health insurance today, that's exactly what they do because they like their care now. But let's say you have employer-provided care, but you don't like it. You can't see the doctor you want, or it turns down the test you need. You get to choose. And if you choose not to take your employer's plan, then you would get a tax credit. to go out and buy a healthcare